She is the woman of the century, and I'm talking about her soul now.
I hate that sound. Hello?
I found you. God, I am so happy to see you.
You can talk, can't you? Come on, tell me you're better. Yes, you are.
I'm sorry we didn't call, but we're hiding out.
Not for me. Meet Marianne and Paul.
Oh, I should have known you'd bring a protege.
I'm his daughter.
The looks on your faces.
Love is my temple. Love is the highest day.
You asked them to stay. Why is that?
When did we last do this? How many years ago?
You're pretty domesticated for a rock star.
Have I done anything to upset you?
Do you want some?
I don't smoke.
That doesn't mean you don't want some.
We were friends. Better than brothers. We fighting?
Just stop talking. The world is not ready for your honesty.
What's the point of Paul in your life anymore? You don't deserve either of them.
I fall in love with every pretty thing.
You don't want to do this.
I love you.
You're obscene.
Everyone's obscene. That's the whole point.
She is the woman of the century. Now look what I've done.
Thanks, everybody. Guys, take a seat. Thanks so much for being here. Congratulations on this movie. I gushed as much as I possibly could in the green room over it. I really love this movie, and I mean, I love Luca's work, so it's such an honor to have you here, sir. My first question for you, Ralph, is, you know, you've worked with a lot of great filmmakers before. When you're doing a movie like this, and it can be covered in sort of pretty basic ways. And if you're working with a filmmaker who knows how to just sort of basically tell a story, you know you're moving in for your reverse, you're doing the wide here, but Luca, you can tell he has different ideas as to how to cover a scene and how to shoot a scene. Is that something that you just have to trust the filmmaker, knowing that it's gonna come out to look as sort of iconic as it kind of does in certain moments?
I could certainly feel on the set that the choices Luca and Yorick, the DP, were making were unusual and exciting and brave and inventive, and that's a good feeling that, you know, it wasn't predictable at all the way that Luca was choosing to shoot it.
Do you ever worry about that as an actor too? Like, I mean, because you have so much experience, or you ever think, well, are we getting my close-up here, or are we getting this, or how should I perform?
Oh no, we were getting my close-up, I knew that, just not in a predictable way.
Luca, how do you go into shooting scenes? Do you go into them a lot of ways saying, let's make sure that this doesn't look like anything I've seen before?
Well, no, because that assumption would look like a little bit contrived, like to strive for originality for the sake of it, which is not something I'm really interested into. It's more about the point of view. I learned in time through my upbringing as a cinephile that there always is one point of view that is the meaningful one. I started off as a filmmaker really programming the shots, even drawing the shots, and then I slowly learned that that's kind of bullshit, and with all the respect for the directors who draw their scenes, what is important is that you know the scene, you know what is going to happen in the scene, but then you really stage the scene with your performers and you look at the performance, and then with patience you try to understand what is this point of view that is important. I wanted to add something to what Ralph was saying. Ralph is not only the great performer, actor he is, but he's also a super fine director.
Absolutely.
And I have a special passion for directors. Who knows me knows why. And so for me, of course, I dreamt to work with Ralph for many, many years, but it's interesting that it's accomplished my goal to start working with him also when he became a director, because I love directors and I love to partner with them. And I think that from your point of view as a director, to be on a movie set is quite different than the passiveness that sometimes happen to be into acting, because you know what's going on with them, but you know, Ralph has an eye.
Well, that's so interesting. How sort of involved do you allow Rafe to become as an actor on set who also has somewhat of a director's eye? Like, how much are you kind of working together or discussing exactly what you're doing so that he understands it as both the director and the actor?
Well, I didn't actually, after attempting 2 films as a director, it was a great relief not to have to.
I wouldn't say attempting, succeeding. Your films are quite beautiful.
Well, thank you. But it was still a relief to not have to have, I mean, that responsibility to just to be concerned about playing Harry. But I could tell from just where the cameras were that it was exciting, it was different. And that was, I wasn't invited to, but also I didn't want to. But I mean, I liked doing what I had to do.
Look, I'm curious. You said you started off being very programmatic with the filmmaking process, and then you've gotten to a point where you sort of figure it out with your actors in terms, you know what you want, but you figure out the blocking and work with them. How prepared do you come to set at that time? Do you have a shot list? Do you have any sort of shots that you've designed or drawn, or do you sort of see it when you're on set and figure it out with your DP there?
Well, I had an epiphany 10 years ago when came out this amazing box set of Ingmar Bergman's Fanny and Alexander by Criterion, in which they put together the cinema version, the TV version, and this amazing documentary on the making, which was anything but a backstage, was a real documentary. And in that documentary, which is quite long, you see the master at work. You see this gigantic filmmaker who, almost at the end of his career, someone who has investigated human condition through so many masterpieces, lost. He's lost. You see how he needs to add the little part to the next little part to this, to try to find a wholeness to it. And that was a great moment for me, because I said, okay, this Ingmar Bergman seems to look for things instead of pretending to have the answers, and is not shy, is not embarrassed in the intimacy of the movie set to share his fragility with his collaborators. And so, if he was like that, I felt I could be like that. And that led me to what I said before, to the freedom of investigating what is the point of view for every specific movie, in total freedom and absolute discipline with my collaborators, which are the performers, the DP, and everybody else.
You have to really trust your collaborators at that point to work that way.
I totally do. I think that it's a collaborative cinema. Cinema is about collaboration, and no, don't believe someone who tells you, the director is the one who makes the movie. I think the director has the mission to make sure that the movie happens, and has the responsibility to fulfill the ambition upon which he involved the people to be together. I would be so ashamed and really embarrassed to disappoint the level of ambition I ask someone to be invested with me on a movie. But afterwards, it's a collective endeavor. We all are involved to make
completely understand that feeling of not wanting to disappoint the other collaborators.
Maybe because I'm Catholic. I'm not Catholic, but I come from a Catholic country. But la vergogna is something that...
Your Catholic guilt comes from walking out of the theater and looking at the faces of the people who you made the movie with.
When you see a bad movie, you think, oh my God.
Rave, sitting here, you're somewhat quiet, like low-key guy, but between Grand Budapest and this, you're playing these incredibly loquacious, high-energy characters, especially in this. You have, and you see it a little bit in the trailer, this incredible dance sequence that you do in the movie that's like, looks a little influenced by Mick Jagger, kind of. Where did you get this
People
dance?
say that, but I deliberately didn't watch any Mick Jagger at all.
Really?
No. I worked with I saw in London a play in which an actor had to, he was playing a singer, a pop singer, and in one sequence he had to dance. It was, in the theatre, the actor sort of did a sequence of dance movements as if he was on stage. And I know the actor a bit, and I thought, I don't think he's a dancer. I want to know who got him to look that good or look that convincing. And then I met this young choreographer called Anne Yee, who I met her, and I said, this is what I've got to do. There's this sequence where I've got to dance. doesn't in the end have to be great dancing, but it just has to be totally. Harry has to be immersed in this, and it was scripted already that it was going to be emotional rescue. That I just basically, I've never been a sort of confident mover or dancer, so I worked with Anne, who was this great spirit who just said, look, there are no mistakes. You just have to listen to the beat, and you just got to, and we just rented a rehearsal room in London, and then we got to Pantelleria in the local cinema. On the stage of the local cinema, I threw a few shapes at her, and it gradually emerged, and I loved it. I mean, I like making an ass of myself on the dance floor, but she gave me a sense of a little bit more of a sense of a language of movement, and it wasn't choreographed as such.
It was a sort of psychoanalytic choreography. She was really trying to pull out things instead of dictating movements. Right. She was great. It was a great collaboration, I would say, and it took long. It was great.
Speaking of collaborations, this is your third collaboration with Tilda Swinton, or is it your third?
More. We
more
did
than
so
that?
much. Yeah, we did 3 feature films, and we did the documentary, and we did commercials. Yeah.
Okay, excuse me. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
What keeps bringing the two of you together?
We enjoy life the same way. When I did my first movie with her, which was my first feature in 1998, we shot. It was released in 1999. Came out in 3 theaters. But I remember we were sitting in between takes, and she said to me this thing. She said to me, I feel the beauty of being private and quiet in my private life and wild in my art. She didn't say art, she said in what I do. And that was a nice bonding moment, because I have the same feeling. Also, I like the beauty of and the freedom, the liberty of the familial bonds that comes off of cinema, in which you don't have the suffocation of the actual genetic family. You have the freedom of coming back and going away. And that is in a way fantastic, because it gives you the possibility of evolving, of changing, of exploring. And what happened with Tilda, it happened with other people, like my editor, Yorick Lesseau, Ralph. And so I think it's a great privilege of choosing one another.
It's brilliant casting of her as a silent character, someone who can't talk, because she is probably one of the most expressionistic faces that cinema has to offer right now. I mean, she shows up on screen and you're just baffled. What is this alien thinking? She's so beautiful, It's incredible. Was that one of the reasons that you turned to her for this character? Was that you knew as a silent type she would sort of express so much silently on screen, or was it just working with her again?
Well, the script was indicating that Marianne Lane was a mega actress star, and she was speaking actually, and then Tilda was she came on board very lately in the process. I think Ralph was the first one to come on board on this project. Yes, and she read the script. She liked the script, but she was in a moment in her life after she had lost someone important in her family, and she didn't felt to be garrulous in a movie, so she wanted to find a new way of expressing. And also in the communication with Harry, this guy who is really all ego coming off in any possible way, and not putting a line between him and the other people, in particular investing everybody with his own words. Tilda had this intuition. She said, what about she can't talk, and she has to find another way to communicate with him, which she does. And I found it very fascinating. I like disruptions if they are a sort of energy that makes things move in another direction, even if it was pretty late in the process, because this idea came like in May and we shot in July. I very carefully said it to the writer. I did not say it to the studio. And we addressed this idea in the script, and we made it. And I think 2 days.
When did the studio get their hands on it?
2 days into the shooting.
They showed up and they're like, "Wait, we haven't seen Tilda talk yet. What's going on here?"
You like it, I said. They were great. kudos to them. They were really cold-blooded, very good.
You mentioned that Rafe's character is kind of all id and ego, and one of the things that I really liked was this kind of shift at a certain point where he might, to me it felt like he might actually be the person with less ego than
Actually,
than the
I
other
said ego, I
main.
wanted to say id. I mistaken that. I think it's the opposite. I think
Id.
Always said id. When you,
id. I made a mistake. It's id. He's unleashed. He doesn't have restraints, and he really believes, or not believe, but he acts as a sort of force of nature.
But that can come off as egocentric at the beginning, but when you have the juxtaposition of the other towards the middle, latter half of the film, he realized that he's kind of egoless, and all of his sort of expression, the way that he's expressing himself, is mainly to make a lot of people around him have fun.
what I loved about him was that he's honest about he has an ego, but he's sort of, his job, he feels he has to acknowledge it, embrace it, face it. I think what I found attractive about him is that he thinks we have to face up to who we are. One of my favorite lines is the line to Matthias about, we're all obscene, but we love each other anyway. And I think that was almost one of the reasons why I wanted to play the part, because I think there's truth in that. You know?
I thought the tolerate me line was so astute. It's such a brutally honest and thing to say, that you have friendships eventually where somebody is just tolerating the other person, and that is the most hurtful thing that a friendship could be. It's just someone tolerating the other one. That's an incredible scene. Can you talk about what part of yourself you use to play this character, if any?
Well, I guess, I don't know, these things are hard to talk about. I mean, I think,
maybe the id part.
no, I think lurking in all of us are different aspects of ourselves, and as an actor, your job is often to access some of these weird feelings, spirits, other characters, other bits of yourself that you might never show in real life. You've spent all your life putting them away. And I think with actors, you often, sometimes you don't know what's there. Sometimes you know what's there, but you've never been called upon to show it. And I think with Harry, I felt there was an inner Harry that had never been given permission. And
finally got him out, and you can tuck him back away. Or maybe he's just gone, and
he's in my back pocket, right?
Luca, with this film, we were talking backstage, and I was mentioning "Jump Into the Fire," the Harry Nilsson song that's used in the movie, and I sort of said that it's also in Goodfellas, and you said it was partially an homage. And now, the way that it's used in the movie, I don't see like very direct homages to Goodfellas within it, except for maybe the use of that song. You're clearly a cinephile. I'm wondering how often you find your homages or references to be very specific to the filmmakers you love, or just sort of spiritual homage.
Well, I think that what I'm not interested in is in the copycat. I think that's something not fascinating to me. I rather try to think by my knowledge of other filmmakers' work and other filmmakers' ideas, what they would have thought of a character, a movie, a sequence, and try to understand really that point of view, how can help me. Because I think cinema is a question of language and is a question of ideas. And what is fascinating to me is that, this is a remake, they say, but I don't think it is. But the first idea came out of the concept of remaking a French film of the 60s called La Piscine by Jacques Deray, a movie from 1969, a movie that I saw when I was very young, and it never really clicked onto me because it was what they call commercial cinema. The director was someone who had not a real take on language, cinema as a language, and he was operating in the same decades in which all the great nouvelle vagues and new waves were working, like all the French nouvelle vague and the younger Deutsche cinema, and in America the new Hollywood. So I said to myself, how do you take this story about jealousy and contempt and the power in relationship, the power position, and make it through the perspective of those filmmakers you admire so much, what they would have done in your place. So that's the first attitude that I have when it comes to making sort of references to past cinema. Then you have, then you are trying to make little homage, like with music. if you work with the Rolling Stone and if you try to electrify a sequence or a movie with the music from the rock and roll time, the canon has been set by Martin Scorsese in a way that is, unsurpassable. So you have to go back there. You must acknowledge that lesson and try to humbly push it or try.
Was using Jump Into the Fire a form, only one of the reasons you may have used it, but a form of acknowledgement for you?
For me, yeah, absolutely. Because we discussed with Walter Fasano, the editor of the movie, at length about what kind of music Harry was playing. Because that's important to say, that the first 2/3 of the movie, the music you hear almost is all from his iPod, from Harry iPod. So, there is. So he was a producer from the Rolling Stones. He has been living in that milieu. He, of course, may have met Mr. Scorsese. He has definitely admired his way of using rock and roll in his cinema. So maybe he has a playlist called Scorsese Rock and Roll in his iPod, and we got to get the same tune that he used in the Goodfellas thing. All these ideas that may be wonky ideas, but we were thinking about this kind of stuff.
Rafe, do you think Harry is trapped in the sort of best time of his life? He's so clearly, he doesn't seem like a man who's trapped in terms of how excited he is all the time, but he's still trying to maybe live in this time where he was extremely...
No, I think you're right. I think he's caught up in the... Well, I was playing him as my age, and so if he had participated in a voodoo lounge, which is what he says, he would have been very young. In his late teens, I think, or something.
I will say about
But I think he's caught in that time, that sort of late 70s, early 80s.
His most successful moment.
And he references even earlier times than him, but I think that's that was his most successful moment, yeah.
I was just going to say that Voodoo Lounge is usually where my Rolling Stones listening stops. And I hadn't heard that first Voodoo Lounge song that's played in the movie, and that song is amazing.
Moon is Up.
Moon is Up. I had never heard that song. It blew me away. It was one of those. When it started, I was like, "Wait, this is the Stones? This is from Voodoo Lounge? Okay, now I got to go listen to Voodoo Lounge. God damn it!" I'm gonna turn it over to the audience for questions.
Hey guys, Ricky asked a lot of my questions, but.
So next, no, sorry.
Do you see Tilda Swinton as a muse, or who is your muse? Maybe both of you have a muse.
I am not very interested in the concept of muse because, for my knowledge, muse is someone who's there to inspire, often a male, to create. I much rather prefer the idea of a partnership. So no, she's not my muse, and I don't have muses. I have friends and partners.
Next question.
Hey guys, big fan of your work, Mr. Fiennes. So you've evolved with every role that you've taken. So how much have you changed since with every passing role you've taken, and which one has been the most challenging for you?
Well, I don't know how much I've changed. I can't answer that very easily, except. I suppose they're like layers of people. I think once you played a part, they're always somehow inside you. And if you had to play them again, you could sort of bring them out again. There was a little collection of weirdos in my head. But I think increasingly, I think I love the challenge of playing. This part and the part for Wes Anderson, Monsieur Gustave, they all felt like great new areas, not only because they were comedic, but they were also with directors who were able to make the film they want to make. And that was a great thing, that you're working with people who are not being coerced or nudged into packaging up something that's someone else is selling, but they're in charge.
How often do you find yourself in the, I would say, luxurious position of working with a film or working on a film where the director is sort of making exactly what they want to make?
Not often. I think it's quite rare. Actually, I've been lucky that the Wes Anderson, the Coen brothers, and Luca are all directors who have achieved an ability to be pretty autonomous.
Do you feel spoiled if you like when you're done with that? If you walk off that set onto like a big studio movie and it's not like that anymore?
Yeah, you know, there's a different it's a different landscape completely. You just know it as soon as you go on set.
I'll turn it over to the audience for more questions, but I will say in Hail Caesar, the scene that you have in Hail Caesar with the mispronunciation is probably the funniest scene a movie has to offer this year. It's extremely hilarious, that scene.
That's a lot due to the writing, I mean, and the wonderful Alden Ehrenreich, who's a fantastic young actor. Yeah.
Next question.
Hey guys, thanks for being here. I also want to commend you on your elocution in that scene, and also as Mr. Gustav throughout the whole Grand Budapest Hotel. So my question is, I read that on set, to increase your chemistry on the set of the Grand Budapest Hotel, you guys all stayed in like this old hotel you found, and I'm curious if there were anything you all did as a cast to increase your chemistry after you were done shooting and between shooting on this film.
Well, no, there were two variants of what this story. One is that we were in an old hotel, but Wes, quite wisely, I think, has understood that, you know, you have more freedom and your budget is a little bit more flexible if you do away with a lot of stuff, like particularly trailers and individual cars for actors, and traveling time between hotels and trailers and then to set, and just eats into your precious filming time, and it eats into your budget. So we all were in this hotel in this East German town called Görlitz, and it was an old building, and we all had to get changed in our bedrooms. So the wardrobe people would come to our rooms and bring, and we would travel, and we would all have dinner together in the evening. It wasn't mandatory, but it was a gentle, benign pressure on us to all, and it was great because Wes brought in some great cooks, so we ate very well, and that was a wonderful feeling, with everyone sharing, breaking bread together. But there was also, I wasn't part of this the other thing that you might have heard about was that Harvey Keitel, who is fantastic actor, of course, but you know, he's playing an old convict in the prison scene, and he wanted to bond with the other prisoners by staying overnight in a prison. It's what they did. They had an overnighter together with in bunk beds and feeling the cold, and so they we were all safely in the hotel having wonderful food.
I'd imagine, do you guys, on this movie as well, where was it, you were kind of on a small island where you were shooting it, right?
Yeah, we were in Pantelleria, which is a little island south of Sicily, closer to Tunisia. Actually, I think geographically it's more Tunisia.
You can see Tunisia on a good day. You can see.
Yes, you see Tunisia in front of you when it's clear.
On a good day, yeah.
Next, I think we have time for one more question. Next question.
I'll pose the question to both of you. To put Scorsese aside for a moment, were there any cultural references from the 60s and 70s that you used to develop or help to mold the characters?
I don't know.
You've just talked about the 60s Nouvelle Vague.
Yeah, I mean, the title is from a great David Hockney painting. I think that was a special time for the arts, in which there was a freedom of experiment, but also a very great capacity of talking to a larger audience without compromising the vision. Yeah, I go back there all the time.
I have a fantasy version of. I was a kid in the early 70s. I was born in 1962, but I have memories of, and I was like maybe 8, adult parties and sort of music, and then as I grew older and was aware of the music world of the 60s and 70s, but I was listening to it in the 80s or late 70s. But I conjured up this sort of, you know, and then, oh yes, I read all these Rolling Stone, I read Keith Richards' A Life, and that completely suffused, linked with my own imagining of this time of sex and drugs and travel and people, and also what was really interesting was the recording that the Rolling Stones did. I was ignorant about Rolling Stones' history, and my whole sort of Harry imaginary world of who I was playing was opened up a lot by reading Keith Richards' Life and this other book about the Rolling Stones tour in the States in '69 that that ended at Altamont. But that was that those two books gave me this sense of this whole other world I don't think exists anymore.
Is the trash can story, is that a real story?
Yeah, it's a real story. We gave the script to the Stones to sign off on it, and they, at the last minute, they said, "Oh no, you're missing one person that was in the room recording the track, Chuck Lavelle." So David added the line, and they say, "Okay, that's great." And then we go on set shooting, and suddenly we realize that we don't know how to pronounce Lavelle. So we ran the camera, and then Ray said, no, we must know as a fact what is the right pronunciation. And one of our still photographers, a British guy, said, "I was there, I know Chuck, is Lavelle." And then we got back to Lavelle. Yeah.
Guys, I have to let you go. I love this movie. It's so beautiful,
Thank you.
incredibly well acted, and it's just, Luca, it's so much fun to watch a movie when you put one out. They're just incredibly original and well made. When can people see it? When does it come out into the theaters, guys?
It opens in 4th of May.
May 4th. The movie opens May 4th. Guys, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.